Hi, welcome to this video on ÉFficiency, the heart of the network, the way we make money. Okay, so I'm going to do this quite swiftly because I have just made a video of this that took about 50 minutes, and that's now going to be angeltheory.org/video/34D. So if anything's covered, sorry, one second, I'm just going to have a sip of water. If anything is missed out, go and have a look at 34D and it'll probably be there. Okay, so we're starting. Let's just show where the money comes from. This is very important. What's important is trade nominal figures. They're just there for show, just so as in case I want to put bigger figures in there later, it works. Real estate sold from Angel City 1 is significant, but if we remove that, just throw it away and say there's no property sold at all, we just got to take our final figure, which is around 24 trillion, and take off 10%, and that would solve that. Aid, there's a good argument for aid. There's a very good argument for the city sale or the suburb sale, and this is really where most of the money comes from. Well, most of the money comes actually from saving this and then spinning it, but initially this 1 billion a year for building a suburb in the city is where the money comes from. That said, in the first year we're starting off with a 4 billion cash flow. And as we can see here, there's 2.3 billion made that year. Nominal trade, 250, real estate, 1 billion in aid, just over 1 billion for the city sale. Okay, so that is, the other thing is when we get to 2032, we had a second city or set of city suburbs. When we come to 2048, we had a third set of city suburbs. Okay, or just a city. When we add the initial cash flow to the initial money made that first year, we have 6.3 billion. And for many people, it's much easier to just think of it in millions, not billions. Just don't see those last three zeros, but it is macroeconomics, and this is the language. Okay, so that 6 billion is times by the E for efficiency, recycle efficiency. Let's just have a look at the graphic. Let's look at it. This is page 17 of the book, 64 Reasons Why summary. And first we see the graphic of how by recycling the water with an inflow of only 8 gallons, if the outflow is only 8 and 90% is recycled, then the stock of water will go up. We're going to go straight to this graphic here, which shows it a little bit more, doing the same thing, but it's doing what we call a spin, because the cash flow is spent twice, but that'll come across in the figures. Here we can see it more naturally. The money is spent in the first 7 months of the year. On 90% of that money is spent on products and services from other people in the network. Thus, the network retains 90% of its initial revenue. This is then spun around, and on the first spin we have 0.8 billion lost to other, mainly wages. Second spin, 0.72, and you can see by spinning it twice, spending that money twice in a year, we in essence double the cash flow. Then if we do it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, we sort of triple it. And lastly, we come to this, and this is what we're going to come back to after we've looked at this spreadsheet. These are the figures that is made each year in cash flow and spent by the network. And you can see, similar to the graphics we just seen, starting with 5.6, second year doubles to 14.8 or more than doubles, third year goes to 26. That's pretty close to what we just saw. Now we're going to see these figures exactly. There is no crisis variable. As long as we're getting that city and we've got an efficient E, we're all good. The aid can come, maybe not. That's not critical. Okay, so now we're in 2024. Of that 6.3 billion, 90% is recycled, as we just saw, and that leaves 5.6 left in the collective bank account of all the network companies who have just spent all their money, or 90% of their money, on them. And at the end of January, we take this 5.6, we add it here, and we call it the law of conservation of revenue, or simply savings. This is then, whoa, what's going on? That's not good. Okay, there we go. This is then taken over here, and we go down to the next year to here. And this is added to the rest of the inflows. So we have nominal trade, real estate that if we throw it away, we only lose 10%, aid, which is reasonable, and the city sale, plus the biggest input is the money that was rolled over from the year before. The cash flow that was left in the network at the end of the year is obviously still in the network the first day of the next year. So, second time, we take this collective figure of what we have in revenue and savings. This time we times it by 91%, so there's a leakage of only 9%. And it makes this amount of cash flow, 7.7 from 8.5. But this year, it must be all spent by the 11th of July. Then, on the 12th of July, it starts again with the 7.7 times by 91 equals 7.0. And that is spent by the end of the year. Now, of course, we've got two sets of cash flow in the same year. And that's really the trick to it. That, in essence, doubles the cash flow. And we're saying roughly that GDP is going to be about 50% of what cash flow spending is. Someone could argue that that's wrong. That should be that shouldn't be there, but it's there for caution, and it's inspired by David A. Moss, so probably right. Okay, so yep, second year, more in savings. Again, goes down, 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 down to here. And again, that is the biggest contribution of the total for 2026. And again, that is moved to the beginning of what we call the rest calculator, this section here. And this time, the E is 92, so 10.5 turns into 9.7, spent by the 12th of May. On the 13th of May, they start spending the 9.7, which leaves them 8.9 at the 11th of September. On the 12th of September, they start spending the 8.9, which leaves 8.2 in the network, which, again, is now applied the law of conservation of revenue, and that figure is available the following year as cash flow. That cash flow is once again added to the nominal trade, the real estate, the quite high aid this year, and the city. Now, the aid goes up, but then it comes down again. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of cash flow spending within a year. And now we go down and we see that's at $40 billion. And potentially 20 billion in GDP. Let's just, I missed one out. It's this one here that makes 26, and I'm bringing that to you bringing that to the front because actually I'm going to do when we look at this, it correlates. If we just go straight to the 40 and you think it's the third year, that's wrong. No, fourth year 40.9. So let's see that 40.9. Okay, so at this point we've got global growth and Malawi growth, and Malawi has 0.01% of global GDP. We measure in percentages of global GDP because the figures inflate due to growth. What starts at a billion ends up in 2080 as 4 billion. Yeah, that's in terms of what you could buy with it spending today. So instead of trying to work out those figures each year, we just look at the global GDP. Right, so we're going to the next year. We're going to do a couple more years like this. Okay, so again, this money comes from here. It's copied over to here, 94E. And you can see we're making this cash flow. We're spending it by the 28th of March. Leaves us this cash flow. We're spending it by the 9th of June. Leaves us this cash flow. We're spending that until the 21st of August. And again till the 28th, and again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of cash flow spent in the same year. Spin 5. So let's go down, see what happens. 53 billion now, 26 in GDP. Again, let's skip a few years. Let's go to 2032. Which is known as Angel City 3. And we have 9 spins now. And notice the E, and this is, you know, if one wants a good argument for breaking my figures, which I am looking for people to do, then I think the good argument is 99% E is a very hard thing to achieve. And we will tell. Time will tell. I can't give you an answer on that right now. That's why I'm bringing it up. But, you know, certainly mid-90s is very achievable. This example, we're doing 99%. And it's you can't really comprehend the amount of software that goes into making sure this is running smoothly. Because that would, you know, that would be about 4 books and no one's got time to read them. So 2032 at 9 spins with an E of 99%. So of every time anything is spent, 99% of the time it is on a service or a product or a personnel from another network. So that money always exchanges within the network. And that's, you know, that's what makes it a monopoly. Is that a bad thing? Well, monopolies have had a bad name, but it's a good thing in business, especially if it's done in this way, which guarantees that each place we go to, each suburb, each city is net zero, and each company in it is geared towards creating the funding for the special projects that we see in 64 Reasons Why. 64 Reasons Why is 64 special projects. That's why. So if we can do this, due to the fact it's a monopoly, we're fine in the United States. We might have problems in the UK and Europe, but if it can be seen to do this much good, and no one's gonna argue, you know, especially not the US, not now. And even if the Democrat gets in, which, you know, would be probably a good thing, Barack Obama didn't challenge antitrust. He didn't try and break the monopolies. So there's no reason that anyone should want to change it, because if they did, it would mess the economy up big time. Right, okay, so I'm just going to now skip. Oh no, let's just go to the bottom of there, see what we're looking at now. Looking at 100 48.6 billion in cash flow, potentially 53 in GDP. I'm now going to skip down and we can just see this extending 12, 262 billion now. I'm going to go now, 2043. 20 spins and E of 99%. It's generating 550 billion. 275 billion in GDP. That's 0.17% of global GDP. Let's go down to 2048. Angel City 4. Now, remember I said at the beginning, we can see it here now. 3 cities. 1, 2, 3. 3 different cities. And that is something that I missed on the earlier presentations. I missed telling the viewer that in 2024 there's 1 city, 2032 there's 2, 2048 there's 3. And again, that is where all of the money is being generated from, because that is being generated, but then it's being saved, and it's those savings that contribute most to the cash flow. So it's not just about the 3 cities; it's about the 3 cities and how the R and E, the RES equation, turns that into more than the sum of its parts. I think, yeah, that's fair. Right, okay, so 2048, let's see where we are. Close to 1 trillion, 867 billion. Now, we're going to go down until we see 32, 31. Here we go. This is the end of when I stop spinning after 32 times. We don't do it anymore. At this point, cash flow is 2.3 trillion. GDP is potentially 1.1. That's 0.56% of global GDP. And the next stop we're going to take is 2080, because we keep on spinning, keep on using that savings to push the economy, and each year the amount of percent of global GDP, you see we're in at 8% here. Note the aid, there's nothing in aid. After about 5 or 6 years that dies out. 0.9%. Angel City 5, 2080. And 1.0, 1% of GDP. So we have our 3 cities, we have nominal trade, we have this real estate that if we just take it away, the figures change by we take 10% off of the cash flow. And it's not an accruing thing that, you know, really changes things that much. Right, so as we can see, spin 32, and the cash flow now is 8 trillion, but that's actually more like 2 trillion in today's spending. That's cash flow for 4 trillion in GDP, which in today's terms is about 1 trillion. And we can see some variations using different growth. And we get here, we've got a sort of a final figures. And there we see it, 24 trillion in today's money. Yep. And if we take off the real estate, that's 21 trillion. we've got the, what have we got here? World Bank, 1%. Okay, I think this is the double check. Sorry about this. So we got here the total cash flow, which is adding all the cash flow up, basically. And what we got here is World Bank, and we see that 1% of global GDP is this figure here, 585. Half of it is 429 billion. But then we got and that's the average per year if a company was making 0.5% of global GDP. Yeah, that's the double check. We've worked out how much it's made in cash flow, and then we look at a country that has a 0.5% GDP share, which this would be if it starts at 0 and ends at 1% going over 60 years. The medium's going to be 0.5%. So we take a country with 0.5%, so that might be like Norway or UAE, they're around about there, and then we times what they make we times their annual GDP by 56, because it's 56 years. And that equals 24 as well. So there's two different sets of figures giving us 24 trillion. So that's why I'm sort of like, okay, yeah, that'll do okay. Now let's have a look at the housing. So if we spend 6.25% of all of cash flow on social housing, but 5-star social housing, this here tells us how many houses we'll have built, and it says 10 million, 10.1 million. Let's see where that figure came from, because that's important. We're going all the way over to the right-hand side of the spreadsheet. And we're going all the way over to the top. Then we're just coming back a little bit here. But I'm going down to here. Okay, so cost of building the home, the bricks, the mortar, the labour, $150,000 per home. That's for the build. And as we can see, as I said earlier, 6.25% of all cash flow is spent on that industry, which equals in the first in 2024, that equals 355 billion, looks like. Or is that million? Gosh, it gets confusing sometimes. No, that's 355 million. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, which builds 2,369 homes, but because of the cash flow variable, I'm basically halving that amount, just in case. So basically, it's either going to be 10 million houses, or if this 50% is incorrect, and I should leave this as without, then that would be 20 million homes. We go down, and we see now the cost per house has gone up. It doesn't mean that's gone up with inflation. Includes global growth. Inflation's another thing all of the side, but that's including the global growth. Okay, and so this year 6,000 houses built, but because of the CFV, cash flow variable, thanks to David H. Moss, that's 3,000 homes built. So let's just start going down, and we can see this year 5,000. That's added to the 9,000 that's already built. 17,000 now. 7,000 a year. Okay, and look, we just carry on going all the way down. Now we're at 74,000 homes built in what year? Doesn't say. I'll have to go all the way over to the left. 2045, 2044. Right, I'm just going to go all the way down to the bottom now because, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. Right. This is that double check again. Or this might be another double check. Global GDP, 2080, multiplier, global GDP versus... okay, yeah, we're basically working out that whatever the price of goods and services in 2080 is going to be 3.9 times as much in 2080. And when we do the figures on that, it's 97% of something. I can't tell you exactly what. I'd have to double check what we're looking at there, but there is another double check. In fact, hold on. Okay, I got it. What we're doing here is looking at the global GDP in 2024. We're multiplying GDP in 20... hold up. Okay, I've had a look at this. I think I've labeled it wrongly. This should be GDP. Well, this is GDP without the multiplier. We're then adding the multiplier, and it's coming to this figure, 93 trillion. Yeah. And that is very close to the figure that has come about from just inflating global GDP, I believe. And I think this is labelled wrong. I'll have to come back to it. Sorry, but it's not actually a very important thing. At some point, it proved a double check, and that was quite satisfactory. But it has no relationship to anything we're looking at. It's only a double check. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so now we're at the bottom. We've got our 10 million houses built. At this point, the price of property has gone up. The price that it costs to build has gone up from 150,000 to 597, which, as we can work out in our heads, is about 4 times as much. So hence the times 4% for working out how much that something's worth now relative to 2024 relative to 2080. What is a million in 2024? It's 4 million in 2080. Okay, so there's quite a lot of due diligence behind these figures, and that's the result, 10.18. So we're going to swish all the way back. We have a little... This is a project that really it probably isn't going to work because Malawi's not on an ocean. But here I did an estimate for water, and 6.25% could get water for 60 million people, but that needs a pipeline built. So, you know, probably better spent on other things. Now, this all leads us to these pages in the 64 reasons why. As we can see on the left, here's the book. And we're zooming into this here. So there's the videos. We can see this. Please read through this. It helps to make sense of things. But this is the prize. This here then affects all of the 64 reasons why. The 64 reasons why are 64 different projects that money is divided into and spent on. And it's all based on these figures here. And as we can see, if we look at, let's take a figure 2072 at 5.5. Let's go see where that figure's come from. 2072, so let's get there. Okay, 2072, and we're looking for a figure of 5.5 at the end, and we see it there. That's how these figures are made. So what have I done wrong here? I don't think anything. I think that a digital monopoly running this way, if we can have that E at the higher rate, which, you know, that's a good argument. We can't get E that high, and so we would just, you know, we would cruise our way. But then this is history 3, which, believe it or not, is the very cautious history, because it only has the suburb sales as the main income. History 2 goes all over the place. We have 5 big recessions covering about 15 years, and every single year, because of the rest equation, cash flow increases. So that's on history 2. So one could say that these figures are very cautious because they don't include trade, and only for 4 cities. But as cautious as they are, they create the funding for the 64 special projects. Let me just see if I can find where it says that. Yeah, here it tells you. The math here is to take the cash flow generation history 3 from 2024 to 2080, then half is allocated to other, and then I divide the balance by 256, making 256 allocations of $43 billion. Then I assign the allocations to the projects. So we can see it here. 2 allocations to Experience Africa. 94 billion spent between 2024 and 2080. Let's just try and find the here we go, the housing figures, and you see we've got 32 of those allocations, which equals that 6.25%, for a total of 1.5 trillion spent between 2024 and 2080. This, if we go to the other end, we have an overview, of all the special project spending. And the last word is from Kate Raworth and Denise Meadows, and that is there has to be enough. So we really have to pay attention to making sure that when these houses are being built, and there's a lot of houses to be built, it's no impact. So the materials need to come from a way that doesn't cause, doesn't cause environmental problems. We know for sure we can make the cities net zero. That's, considering the amount of money one has, that's not a hard thing. You just build a load of solar panels. But there has to be enough. If GDP keeps going up and up and up and up and up, then the whole world is just, it has to, if it's going to increase, it needs to increase in a way that is not only carbon reducing, but it's also resource reducing. So finding ways, to make parts in ways that is not hurting the planet. Okay, and we'll so there we go. That's the proof. If and someone, please, if you find a problem there, and I've got a competition, I'll give 25% of Villa Secret's continental network if someone finds an error, and I'll give more if someone finds that there is no error and wants to work with me on bringing this towards the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation and Elon Musk and Richard Branson and Larry Page, Brin, Sergey Brin. Okay, those are the names. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you very much.